All right, welcome back to the Collective Intelligence Block Party after a little lunch break and after some amazing sessions earlier today. I'm super excited to delve deeply into the food thing, essentially starting from a clean slate, right? Because I think we owe it to ourselves. I think we owe it to the process. Most of all, we owe it to Mother Earth and all of life on Earth to really get this right. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. And we have the time to do it right. So let's do it right. Right? How do people feel about that intention? Okay, clean slate. Everybody good? All right. I'm going to be writing here in pencil, just FYI. That's my favorite medium, pencil and paper. So yeah, let's do this. Super exciting. Well, as we used to say when we were kids, see, Jackie and I were separated at birth. That's as we used to say when we were kids. All right, everyone, strap in your seatbelts. We're going for a little ride. Yeah. Let's go for a little ride and let's make it count. So, I'm going to go on mute just so give people a moment to gather their thoughts or whatever. And, I think we're a really great number and a really great mix of folks right here, right now. Probably others will join. But regardless of that, I think we've got a super good stone soup starter here. So I'm going to go on mute, jump in whenever you feel like it. And, keep in mind that silence is also okay. It's okay to just kind of meditate together, for a minute or two or whatever. We're pretty unconstrained here. So let's make it count. Going on mute.
So I guess we're gonna try to dig up some carrots. Hey, Jamen.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go digging for carrots. I just found one in the garden. Here it is.
Is that Farmer's Craigslist?
Well, I say that's a part of it, right? But I think our opportunity is to really go after the whole of it. Because here's the thing. Here's the way I see it. This press conference that we're planning for, that we're preparing for, this will be the press conference that changes history. And I think this will be the single most important inflection point in the history, not just of humanity, but of life on Earth. And why is that? Because we're all about to die. If we're able to do a hairpin turn and go off on a whole new path to a utopia, for my sister Jackie, right? That will be the single most significant point in the history, because it'll signify not just a near miss in terms of death, omnicide, the extinguishing of complex life on Earth, but it will necessarily imply that humanity, the species with the most innate resources to come together and create collective superintelligence, actually did so. It will imply that humanity actually went collectively superintelligent, and that no problem, Jackie. We'll fill you in. All right. Not just did we go superintelligent, but we turned that into a benevolent superintelligence that in turn transformed us into the caretaker species. So it's a dialectic. We created a tool which transformed us. right? And then we perfected that tool to further transform us into a caretaker species. The tool is collective superintelligence, and but that's, you know, that's not the whole of the story, of course. But I think that we have an opportunity here to actually tell what I'm going to call the big story, right? You've heard of the Big Bang, right? Well, this will be the big story, right? And it'll be that story of how we made the most important turn, the most important transformation in the history of life on Earth. So we have the opportunity to architect that collectively. And I say we build the collective as rich and deep and big as we can around this, so that we do the best job possible at telling the story. But just like Mark said, hey, this is not rocket science, the food part is certainly not rocket science. And whereas collective superintelligence looked like rocket science a few years back, now it doesn't anymore, partly because everyone's on Zoom, right? And partly because it's just, it's just really not that complicated, right? This whole thing of uh, collective superintelligence is really not that complicated, right? The Zoomosphere exists. All these people are having Zoom conferences all over the place. They just need to be networked together. And that, it turns out, is not that hard, especially if you've done it a dozen times before as a species, right? And we've done it gobs and gobs of times. So it's really not that hard what we're taking on, to create a collective superintelligence that can then generate all these solutions. So for me, the big story, right, its elements are food, intelligence. I mean, we're thinking CSI, but maybe the simpler word, the more encompassing word, is intelligence. So food, intelligence, and SRM, right? No, food, intelligence, and cooling through SRM, right? So the three fundamental things are food, intelligence, and cooling, right? And the opportunity here, and here's the thing, the intelligence part is really interlinked with what I'm going to call the community of communities part, right? But the two go together because the community of communities is like the precursor to collective superintelligence. It's sort of, what comes first before collective superintelligence is the community of communities. But anyway, so the big story just has four big elements: food, intelligence. Well, in a more logical order, it would go like this: community of communities, intelligence, collective superintelligence, using that collective superintelligence to solve the food problems, right? And cool the planet. I mean, that's it, and it's just its simplest terms. And I say we start there from the simple and then go to the complex, not the other way around. So in its simplest terms, the big story, the complete story. Look, Winston Churchill famously said during World War II, when their island, the British Isles were under attack, he famously said, "The time for half measures is over." And I submit to you all that we are at that moment right now. The time for half measures is over. It's time to come out with the story, and it's time to the big story, right? Look, and I'm not saying I've got the four magic bullets. right? I've got 4 bullets. Let's work on them, right? But I'm saying it's going to be something like that that's not terribly complex, okay? It's time to unveil the story to the world. And, you know, if it wants to take on the nickname The Solution, then so be it, right? But I think the answer is not to go humble and, you know, half measure here. I think the answer is to dish up the entire gigantic vegan enchilada. Boom, here it is. Not half an enchilada, the whole enchilada. Okay? And announce it at the press conference, at which we say, hello world. We've got the solution. It starts with food, and it starts right here in this one city. And then it's going to go everywhere along with these other pillars, right? Ember, you got your hand up? Go for it.
Yeah, so is it going to be the umbrella facing upward, or is it going to be inverted? Like, you know, like as far as the other communities go, you know, like is it going to be invitation? We're going to put out the call to have these communities come to join us, or we're going to give the green light to just, you know, do what you can, you know, carry your own umbrella. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I know. You had experience there with David. Now, I mean, what communities what community does he represent? I know. I know. We had we had Amanda in today. I mean, she was representing another number of communities that were already integrated. So, you know, a lot of these communities also have their own form of umbrella, right? So, you know, what are we trying? What's the goal here? What's the plan?
Yeah. So the plan and the goal, as I see it, is this. We plan the press conference around announcing the big story and the solution. Big and bold, right? Maxed out, no half measures. We talk about the goals of feeding everyone, right? Feeding everyone all around the world. Ending pandemics with, you know, with home delivery for all. That's a very nice breakdown right there. Feeding everyone all around the world. And the second is ending pandemics with home delivery for all, with home delivery of food for all. And we yeah. And then we also state that another goal is to cool the planet in time. And that those three are just the beginning But at the same time, they are big enough and urgent enough to keep us busy for a while. All right. So we announce those big three goals, and then we address the how, right? And we basically say, look, there's two parts to the how. Part one is Operation Stone Soup, where we start in one city and, you know, solve it here with contributions from around the world, right? That's a crucial thing, I think, because we invite the world to Tempe, Arizona, right? We invite the world to participate as a collective intelligence, because we say, look, you know, it's not like just the people of Tempe are going to get together here and figure this out. Of course, they have the biggest voice in all this because they're the ones who live here, right? This is the local community. But this is the beginning of, and that gets us to, I'm going to call it, so I talked about the goals: feeding everyone, ending pandemics, and cooling the planet. You see how simple that is? And also, please notice that with those goals, we don't talk about how. We just say, these are the goals: feed everyone, end pandemics, cool the planet in time. And those are the first three, right? You know, beyond that, we've got longer term goals, right? Of healing humanity, right? You know, from our collective trauma, from our individual traumas, you know, and so on, and healing Mother Earth as a whole. And in fact, doing both of those simultaneously and holistically, right? So, you know, cooling the planet, and now I'll say how, through SRM, right? See how we kind of turn over one card at a time, right? We don't just, you know, we start off with just goals, real simple. Don't talk about the how. Then we start to unveil the how, little by little. So I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about the three goals as short-term goals, and that way we distinguish them from long-term goals. Boom, boom, right? Short-term, we got to feed everyone, we got to stop the pandemics, and we got to cool the planet. I mean, this is the fire department hosing the place down. That with that kind of urgency, because it literally is a situation of bad going to worse by the week. We're in the end zone now. And you know, it's do or die time. It's really as simple as that. So I also want to make clear it's actually up to us right now, and we should treat it that way, right? It's not like, oh, later when we talk to person X, Y, or Z or group X, Y, or Z, then we'll figure it out. It's up to us to figure it out, because the people who are figuring it out are in this room right now. It's as simple as that. This is either your number one priority or it's, you know, somewhere down the list. That's, you know, that's the bottom line. And you know, for us, this is priority. Emery, go for it.
I see the first two, you know, feed and stop. You know, those are basically those can basically be local for most of the part. You know, the cooling part, that's a global. You know, working through the first two, will impact the third one, which is cooling. So, you know, resolving the first two will put everybody on the same page to be able to work through on the third one, which is cooling. So, and as far as as far as the first two go, that it should work like a virus, you know. People will catch on to it, and they'll spread from mayor to mayor. You know, if we're looking at a city, the mayor is in charge. He's going to lay down the idea, and you know, there'll be plenty of evidence that he could lay out in front of the people to show that it's working, and there'll be good reason to loosen the purse strings, right? So as far as people making contributions, you know, it's easy enough to find the money, but they'll just pull it out of thin air, you know, if you know what I mean. So I don't know. It's got to work. You got to take small steps here. Well, small in a sense. You know, when you look at it, the whole big picture, it's a lot to swallow, but you know. I take the bull by the horns.
It is. It is a lot to swallow. I'm a Taurus, so and so is Michael Gallo. Any other Tauruses in the house? Just raise your hand. Oh, Jackie, that's right. We were separated at birth. What am I? That's right. And any other Tauruses in the house? Okay. So and welcome, Michael. Welcome, Michael. Michael, I'm going to bring Michael up to speed. We're actually in an intense conversation that's been working. It's 2:22. Oh my goodness, that's a sign. See, when I look at the time and it says 2:22, that's a sign. So anyway, we're in intense. We're like 3.5 hours deep in, or 3 hours deep into a really intense conversation. So let me bring Michael up to speed, and it's a good time for just a super quick summary anyway. So we're going to do a press conference in one city. All right. So is back from London. By the way, we are recording and we are streaming live on Twitch. All right. Welcome back. So, welcome back. So quick recap. We are going to do a press conference at one city, and the single biggest headline to come out of that press conference is that we are committing. And James, I see you got your hand up, so I assume you're cool. I'll just recap real quick, and then the single biggest headline at that press conference will be, oh wait, did Michael Gaia drop off? Oh goodness. All right, I think he's had some technical thing. Here I am giving him a personalized recap and he plops off. But anyway, that's just kind of funny. Anyway, but So is back with us and she needed the recap anyway, so. But it's actually good to rehearse it a number of times, so nothing lost here. Welcome back, So. So the single biggest headline is there is this group, including the mayor. In fact, the headline may say, Mayor, Sanchez, commits to ending hunger, to feeding everyone. And because you know what? Who is going to be at the press conference? It'll be the mayor and then a bunch of people they've never heard of before in Tempe, right? I mean, that's just the reality. Right? That's just reality. So, the headline's not going to be that, Jamen and Jackie and Myra, or whatever name they put to it. The headline's going to be that Mayor Sanchez, I'm just picking a name, commits to feeding everyone. How is she going to do that? Right? Well, then you tell the story. the story, in turn, of feeding everyone in Tempe, Arizona, right? That story is part of a much larger story. And the much larger story goes like this. We're creating the model here, right, for in very basic general terms, how to do this. And starting from this model fully implemented, actually feeding everyone in Tempe, Arizona, starting today, because that's what the press conference will say. It says starting today. And then from the press conference, we'll take a walk to the warehouse or whatever, where there are literally trucks full of food, right, from farms being distributed to restaurants who are cleaning, preparing, cooking, chopping, whatever, packaging. And, this brings up more questions than answers at this point. Well, are you going to use reusable packaging, disposable? Disposable, that's bad. All right, well, how do we do reusable? Who's responsible for washing it? Okay, we do it centrally. Okay. Anyway, there's ways to figure all this out. And so I'm not saying we have all the answers, right? Just as President Vicente Fox said in that press conference, I have too many questions, right? But he said, and he commended us for being the team that took words into plans and plans into actions and actions in the arena. To play the real game, I'm paraphrasing President Vicente Fox, right? And we're saying, look, to play the real game here, it's to get on the court and commit to feeding everyone. Otherwise, it's not fair. Just feeding the people with money is not fair, right? This whole dark chapter of humanity that we're coming out of, where the rich got everything and the poor got to starve, was one big mistake. And yes, we learned a whole bunch out of it. A bunch of good things came out of it. I get all that, right? But short of that, but aside from that, it was one giant mistake. Anyway, I'll keep recapping more later. James has had his hand up for too long, followed by Emery. Go for it, James.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. That's no bother. I was eating anyway. Yeah, I just think going back there now to the priority list that you were saying, the three main items on the list, in an announcement for the press conference or whatever. I think priority, really utmost and ultimate priority on that, on those three things, is cooling the planet, because if we don't do that, all else is gone anyway. So when we do something like that, that's why I was saying I think we need to hit with the hard punch, which is our priority is to somehow cool the planet, and there is a workable plan around that, which we'll go into later on. However, in order to even get there now, because of the present situation, and our main priority now is first to feed everyone. Get everyone down together with the collective intelligence. Secondly, to get on board with the network of feeding everyone. And then when the collective intelligence group is together and have figured out a way of feeding everyone, that we continue to stay together and work on cooling the planet. Because without cooling the planet, all else fails. We need to let people know this is a basic, cry for help, and not just by us. It's a cry for help for the earth. We're a spaceship floating on earth, floating around the place, and it's as simple as that. The oxygen's running out, someone needs to go get a new bottle. We need to remind people of that. Thanks.
Good stuff, James. Welcome back, Michael. I'll continue with my recap in a moment. First, Emery's had his hand up. And then I do want you to hear the recap, Michael, just so you can get fully up to speed and just see where we're at. Okay, go for it, Emery.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that as it stands now, the situation as far as food and growing food, there's a lot of these farmers have dedicated their farming activities into producing food for livestock for the, for the slaughterhouses, right? They can, so that they can keep operations going full speed, right? So a lot of the food production is geared towards livestock. So, when we're going to be setting this press conference up, we're going to have to reach out to farmers, okay, to be there and to represent the goal that has been, described and arrived at as being, we're going to feed the population now, and that's going to be the focus, as opposed to the focus of feeding the livestock, which in some corners of the market, that is part of the food chain. So, it's going to be confusing to some. We're trying to solve the hunger, yet, we're cutting out the livestock. People are going to have to understand that by focusing more on natural foods, vegetables and whatnot, and fruits and nuts and, vegan kind of descriptive on that, right? People are going to have to make decisions right from the get-go, They're going to have to either be on board with that or they're going to tune out. So I don't know, I'm going to have to tread on that to see how that's going to be presented in a positive way so people don't get freaked out, because, it's liable to happen. So, gotta get all those ducks in a row.
Yeah, totally. All right. My sister Jackie has her hand up, but first I wanted to give the quick recap, if that's cool. Okay, thanks. So Michael and everyone, here's the quick recap. Okay, we're going to do a press conference at exactly one city. All right, let's just use Tucson, Arizona as a hypothetical example. I don't know who the mayor is, so I'm assuming it's a Miss Sanchez. I'm just creating a little fake story here, okay, that will become reality in one city. We don't know which. And the story will go like this. Well, actually, I don't know exactly how the story will go because we haven't worked it out yet, but it'll have these elements. So here's the Lego blocks, and then we've got to assemble it together. But the Lego blocks include 3 short-term goals that are very definite. For all of these, there is a beginning and an evolution, okay? But the 3 short-term goals, as goals, just goals, forget about the how. The goals are feeding everyone all around the world, ending pandemics with home delivery of food for all, and cooling the planet in time. Oh, I went a little bit too far with ending pandemics. Ending pandemics is the goal. Again, forget about the how. Feed everyone all around the world, end pandemics all around the world, and cool the planet all around the world. So those are the 3 short-term goals. And those 3 are just the beginning. And as to how, we'll get to that. But the point is, they are just the beginning, but they are also big enough and urgent enough to keep us busy for a bit. And we need to focus on something. And this gives us basically, 3 big bites to focus on, right? And for starters, and they happen to be the 3 that are the most urgent, right? I've talked about the metaphor before about a family with a whole bunch of problems. Oh yeah, and one of those problems is that the house is on fire. Your first call is to the fire department, not to the shrink, not to the truant officer, not to the AA, whatever, you know, fire department. This is fire department stuff. This is fire department stuff, okay? Feeding everyone, ending pandemics, and cooling the planet in time. If we don't do all three of these, we could well be toast. The good news is we can do all three. And that takes us to the question of how. So, and here's where it starts with starts, you know, it has a beginning that then goes exponential. And I point to that exponential domino video that I know you've seen, Michael, and I hope everyone sees on the Smithsonian. Anyway, you can imagine it. One domino, each domino pushes over a domino that's even bigger, and it just, right, it just grows really big really quickly. We're starting in one city. We're going to do it here in this one city, right? We're going to connect the farms whose produce would otherwise rot because all the supply chains are broken, right? They can't just wave a magic wand. You know, we're not at the Jetsons yet where you just wave a magic wand and robots go out and harvest, right? Supply chain's broken. And so we're going to connect these farms that would otherwise be wasting their food to hungry people in the cities. And we're going to connect the two. How? There's a whole bunch of work to figure that out. But the short answer is through restaurants, right? The food comes in from the farms, gets delivered to the restaurants clean and prepare, and then they deliver to whole neighborhoods at a time. Every house gets delivered food unless they explicitly say, no, thank you. No problem. We're not here to force feed anyone, right? But we're here to offer food to everyone. And so that's the how in terms of the food, right? And here's the thing. Once we do this press conference and announce the criticality of this, the urgency of this, and the outrageousness of the fact that food is going to waste in the fields, and the outrageousness that people are going hungry in the cities. Outrageous on both counts. So what's going to happen is we're going to announce that we're doing this in Tempe, Arizona, and we're going to bring, and all the media is going to come, and they're going to follow us from the press conference to the restaurants to see where the food is getting prepared. They're going to follow us to the fields where the farmers are harvesting and volunteers are harvesting. They're going to follow us to the neighborhoods where food is being delivered to hungry families that are crying because we're now promising them food. We are promising the people of Tempe, Arizona, food, nutritious, whole food, plant-based diets delivered to their homes going forward, no cost to them. How would you feel? You're a mother of 3 living in Tempe. Your pantry's almost bare. Kids are getting a little tired of mac and cheese. I don't blame them. And boom, we come with whole food, plant-based nutrition and delition, right? Okay, so that story is going to spread like crazy. And every city's going to say, if they can do it there, we can do it here, right? And the reality is that whereas capitalism did a fine job of delivering food to people with money while the world burned, it simply can't cut it now, regardless of whether you care about the environment or not. It's simply, the capitalism simply is not going to do it. So we have to find a new way. We're finding that new way. We're communicating that new way. We're implementing that new way. We're evolving that new way. We're experimenting with that new way. And we're using collective intelligence to perfect that new way. Locally within Tempe and around the world. So what happens is we announce it in Tempe. Tempe gets all the press. Tempe gets all the excitement, right? And we do something very similar to, and I'll just screen share for a quick second because it's fun to. We do something very similar to this press conference that changed the course.
But by making cannabis illegal, we have instead turned it into a tool for violence, exploited by criminals and organized crime.
You know, this hard-hitting press conference that just grabs the world's attention, right? And says, this is outrageous. I started off with a quote from Carl Sagan, that press conference, where I said, before introducing our distinguished guests, let me first read a quote from the late astrophysicist Carl Sagan. And the quote goes like this: "The illegality of cannabis is outrageous," right? The prohibition of a plant which basically helps people develop the sensitivity and fellowship, serenity and insight, right? So desperately needed in this increasingly mad and dangerous world, right? So we will start out with some hard-hitting quotes that say, it's outrageous that food is rotting in the fields while people are going hungry in the cities. Everyone will agree with that. I mean, this is just duh. You know, what's that cartoon of these two incredibly stupid little Ren and Stimpy or something? I don't know, but there was some card. Anyway, I mean, this is beyond idiocracy. This is just duh. What, you know, what is this planet of the idiots? Planet of the zombies? Who the hell are we? So we start out by stating the obvious, and then we get everyone in our corner, and we say, look, we're solving the problem here, and here's how we're solving it, stone soup style. What does that mean? It means we're just starting, and we're announcing it very publicly. And we go from there and watch the dominoes fall. And world, welcome. You're welcome to join us. You're welcome to contribute to it, and you're welcome to join the conversation. And so this becomes, and we say, listen, because we're not just going to do this in Tempe, we're going to do this all around the world. And we, the big we of the collective intelligence, the community of communities, we're going to hang together, not just from the beginning, but throughout. And rest of the world, Tempe is going to, you're going to help Tempe now, and Tempe is going to help you later. Why? Because we're going to perfect this in Tempe and then take it all around the world. And we'll be here on every Zoom video conference that you need us, sharing how we're doing it and helping you, since we're leading the way. Somebody's got to lead. So what this does is it takes this obvious solution, right? Duh, right? This is as obvious as a solution as baby is falling from skyscraper, put out the safety net and catch her, right? I mean, it's bonehead obvious that this is the way to go. So this becomes a press conference announcing to the world the obvious, but doing it in such a blast your way into the mind fashion, right? Like what we did with President Vicente Fox, that he gets everyone's attention, everyone's talking about it, everyone's supporting it, everyone's saying they should be doing this everywhere, and then people will just come pouring in to the community of communities where we perfect how to do it. That is what unleashes collective superintelligence, which we need to continue going to the far reaches of the planet, including places where there's war and disease and drought and all the worst of the worst. No stone unturned, no child left behind. And we're going to need that collective superintelligence to cool the planet via SRM. Anyway, that's basically the nuts and bolts of the big story, and we're getting it down. So that's where we're at right now, Michael and everyone. So I'm going to mute myself at this point because I've spoken quite enough. And Jackie, you've had your hand up forever, and I really appreciate your patience. Thank you, sister. Go for it.
Thanks for the recap, because I was taking notes because we went over so much earlier. So I wrote a couple of things in the chat regarding the Brooklyn Borough President. So the first question I wanted to know was, and it came up this morning, about the action, about how much action are we actually going to have in place before we launch the press conference. That conversation was a little bit foggy for me, where some of us were saying that we should have something implemented. Sailesh was saying we should already have it proven that it works before we do the press conference. So I want you to clear that up for me where we stood there. And then also, what can we be doing locally? Well, before I get to that, it was, and I know we haven't really discussed how we're going to select a location, but I don't know, I keep going back to Brooklyn because the Brooklyn Borough President is vegan and a vegan cookbook.
You know what? Maybe Brooklyn's the place to do this. Why the hell not? You know what's going to happen? In fact, I'm leaning towards Brooklyn now.
Because I know he'll be on board. He's vegan, he's African American, an ex-cop, and he healed his diabetes with a plant-based diet and wrote a cookbook about it.
All right, let's okay, somebody post on here's my proposal, that we post on Basecamp. Can anyone connect us through to the borough president of Brooklyn, New York. Here's his
Oh,
name.
yeah.
Here's his Facebook page. Does anyone know this guy, or does anyone know anyone who knows him? Right? And if we put it out to the vegan community, because the vegan community is tight, and he's vegan and he's a vegan author, you know what? I guarantee you Will Tuttle knows him. So whoever pinged Will Tuttle, send him an email and say, please forward this to Brooklyn Borough President. In fact, let's stop recording and do a new video, record a video to him, and we can send it to him tonight or tomorrow. You know?
I know Victoria Moran knows him because she invited him to the premiere of the Prayer for Compassion in New York, and I was there for that. And that's where I met him.
This is me dancing because we now have two vectors to get our email and recorded video through to the Brooklyn Borough President. And we say, we have a proposal for you. Here's what it is, that we work together to feed everyone in Brooklyn. Whole food, plant-based diet. We will figure out the funding, and we'll co-create it together. And we need you to go out on a limb with us and do this stone soup style. And that's the bottom line. In or out? Because we're looking not, you know how the Marines say we're looking for a few good men? We're looking for one bad ass city. Ouch. Slap it, Michael. We're looking for one bad ass. Sorry. You know, and we just want to know, is Brooklyn it? If it ain't, you know, peace. Peace. We'll still send you some vegan sandwiches and stuff. But we're looking for one, not 10, not a few, not two, one. Where we can move in, set up shop, do a press conference that changes the course of history, and do this. Is Brooklyn ready? All right, Emery, you got your hand up. Go for it.
I thought Sarah knows him.
Well, here's the thing. What's emerging is that everybody knows him, right? That's a good problem to have.
He brought his name into.
It's a very good problem to have. Okay.
He brought his name into the picture back last meeting.
No, and listen. Here's what I suggest. Let's make a recording literally now. You know, or if we need a 5-minute break first, we take the 5-minute break. But we do a series of recordings. Why not? Right? And we send him the link or the links, if it's one or more, whatever, but we send it to him through various channels until we either get a yes or a no, right? We're looking for one awesome city with one awesome mayor, right? All right, James has his hand up, and so has put some stuff in the chat. Go for it, James. And you're on mute, James.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Sorry. Yeah, it sounds like we have a city, a city that we can target, and the mayor and everything else, which is great. But I just, you know, before making any contact with anyone, as it was mentioned earlier, and you'd have only one chance at a press conference. Let's treat getting in contact with the mayor as we have one chance here. No, I know we don't. We go on to another mayor if they don't want to go along with it, but we still treat it as such. So, as we were already here now, in the process of formulating the proper email and for making contact with other communities and everything else. Likewise, we should formulate what it is we want to say in the video here now to the mayor or whatever. Like, just get it straight with everyone anyway, so that it comes out right, and you know what I mean, and formulate a proper letter as well if necessary, or email. Thanks.
I love it. I love it. And you know what we can do also is, we first send this email, this video to him, just, privately, and, wait a reasonable time for an answer. And if we don't get an answer, we make it public and we say, this is an open letter to borough president, which we've been waiting a week now. So we're just going to make it public. If you know him, please get it to him. We just need a yes or no, because we got to move on this. Is Brooklyn in or out? And Brooklyn's answer even before I finish asking the question, right? That's like throwing a Brooklyn or a basketball and saying, you in for a game of shirts and skins, right? This ain't messing around, okay? When you say Brooklyn in or out, and here's a really cool thing. There's whole Irish neighborhoods in Brooklyn. So let's do it in Brooklyn, New York, and Cork, Ireland. Twin cities. Boom. Yeah. Brooklyn, New York, and Cork, Ireland. Bunch of Irish in Brooklyn. Yes, Jackie.
Because I know that he was also one of the keynote speakers at the Black Veg Fest, which is also hosted in Brooklyn. Should we be reaching out to them?
We do full court press, because here's the thing: we make it a public call out, right? This is when there's 40 kids around the playground on a sunny Friday afternoon, late spring before school lets out, and you walk up to one of your buddies and you throw him the basketball. You say, you in or out? Well, look, half the school is watching. So right, so we make it an increasingly public invitation. We keep cranking up the heat. Meanwhile, we make a similar invitation to other cities, but we first do full court press on Brooklyn. I say we quit messing around with all this other BS. Let's go straight to Brooklyn, right? New York City is the place that's hit the hardest. Where do we want to do this? Beverly Hills, where everyone's obese anyway? Oh, either that or they got their stomach removed, so they're skinny as a stick. I mean, it's one or the other. So, but bottom line, they don't want our food. Let's go where they need it. And let's go where the mayor just will support it out of the box, right? We don't want someone who's not vegan kind of faking it. You know what I mean? Michael, yes, go for it. And Emery, I know you have your hand up too, but let's give Michael a chance and then on.
Oh, just a few quick comments. I just wanted to drop in. I'm not able to stay too long. I'm famished. I need to go get some lunch, but sounds like a pretty big wave we're working on here. And I think go for it. And just a few peripheral thoughts, thinking out of the box on this. When I heard you describing the vegan-based, whole food, plant vegan-based diet at the beginning, which I'm fully on board right now. That's my diet right now. And I had an insight this week, talking with my girlfriend. We're realizing there's even a new opportunity to expand that description a little bit further. That just to consider. It's a little bit edgy for some people when you start talking about mushrooms. But here's the thing: there might be some way to leverage this, because, as you know, I'm a what's the
my celiologist.
Well, I was going to say I'm a bud. I'm not a professional mycologist, but I dabble in it, and I'm so convinced after years of research that we have so much to discover about the mycological realm. Funguses and mushrooms. Just real quick for people who don't know, funguses and mushrooms are our ancient ancestors. They are the first life forms on planet Earth. All plants and all animals come from funguses. Funguses are a complete other class of life. They're not plants. They're a different class of life on the planet. We have animals, plants, and funguses. And there's something that was hundreds of thousands of species of funguses. We hardly know anything about them. And yet what we keep discovering about some of them, not only there's like the psychedelic class, we won't go there today. There's the psychedelic classifications, but just there's not just bioremediation, there's a term called mycoremediation, meaning that some of these mushrooms have tremendous potentials for remediating the mess we've been making on planet Earth, including like oyster mushrooms. And I just saw a video yesterday by Paul Stamets, who's the king mycologist. He's been, leading mycology and this mushroom revolution for like 30 years. He lives up there near you, Jamen, in in the Puget Sound area. He posted a video yesterday about some new research about oyster mushrooms. The oyster mushrooms are already so amazing in so many ways for bioremediation. But I guess they discovered that if you take oyster mushrooms and put them in a laboratory under blue light, they produce a certain chemical. I can't remember the name of the chemical, a very rare chemical that's used in making antivirals. Okay, how valuable might that be right now? So that's new research again. Okay, so like check that out. You know, oyster mushrooms might be able to be used for antivirals. There's a branch into your anti-pandemic thing with this wave, right? But also, so we were just brainstorming about it's like, so there's this term out there of like a whole food plant-based vegan diet. Is that what it is?
That's it. Whole food.
Now we're thinking whole food plant-based and fungus diet, because fungus, you got to have your funguses and mushrooms every day too. I'm telling you, they contain nutrients that you can't get anywhere else. No plants don't even have them. Be eating your mushrooms, people. This is the healthiest diet you can have. Wow. Whole food, plant-based, vegan, and some funguses now and then. So I'm just saying, you know, consider that. I know that you start talking about mushrooms, people might start thinking you're a little bit extra funny, you know, on a campaign like this, but it's also an opportunity to expand the terminology a little bit and also branch into these different elements of just, you know, you start talking about mycology and it's just off the charts. I seriously feel that mycology is a major branch of the revolution we're going to have on the planet in the next decades. Major branch. So that's what I have to add.
All right, Michael the mycologist. Love it. Great stuff.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, Jackie, please.
Support what Michael was saying, because I'm also certified in plant-based nutrition, and mushrooms are the top of the list of must-eats every day. Yeah. So that's it's nuts, it's seeds, it's greens, it's mushrooms, it's beans, onions. You want to have, those are staples that you want to incorporate into your diet every day as part of the plant-based lifestyle. And I completely agree with you that it's a misnomer to have mushrooms as the plant under plant-based.
Yeah, it's a confusion.
It's going to confuse a lot of people that are just going to be brand new to this. If we start talking about plant-based, but it's a whole other life form, like. But I do agree that when we share, especially when we do our educational opportunities for the communities, we do express how important it is to have like legumes and seeds, berries, and mushrooms as a staple of your diet.
Yeah, by the way, another thing I found in my research earlier this week was that, and this is somewhat new research too. Again, it's just the point here is that our research into mycology is so new, and we're finding such amazing treasures that it's probably going to be extremely revolutionary in the future. That there's some other chemical, I can't remember the name of it. It's like one of these really long, like 12-syllable things that's found in many edible mushrooms that goes right to the DNA. So like when you're eating a whole food plant-based vegan diet, that's good, and you want to eat lots of different kinds of plants at the same time for the phytonutrients. It's not just by getting your vitamins and minerals from the plants. You're getting phytonutrients, which are the fundamental elements that make other chemicals your body needs. So when you're eating lots of different varieties of plants at the same time, you're getting all the phytonutrients. You're getting a diverse range of the phytonutrients at the same time, and then your body can just create what it needs from that. That's also a radical idea. People don't get that. It's not just about eating vegetables, it's about eating lots of a variety of vegetables at the same time. Now throw in mushrooms in that mix. That mushrooms, particularly like oyster mushrooms, have certain phytochemicals that you can't get anywhere else. And so one of these phytochemicals in mushrooms, which I can't remember the name of, it goes right to the DNA. And there's a really legit scientific research paper on this that tends to show that it protects DNA from oxidation. Wow. We're talking like, this is why the Chinese and all these ancient cultures knew about eating, you know, they call it like the reishi mushroom, the mushroom of immortality, because literally it's not just like healthy for you, it's literally protecting your DNA, and other plants aren't doing it. Okay. So this is why I'm excited about this week. So I'm saying, you know, there's just this opportunity to keep in mind that at some point in the near future, you know, whether it's the next 10 years or something, the confusion around why we haven't been really focusing on mushrooms for so long is going to start getting clarified. And eventually, in 50 years, everyone's going to look back and go, wow, why weren't we eating more mushrooms? They're like so amazing. And they do so many amazing things. So, yeah, consider that in this way. But it might be a little bit weird too. We're talking about going to the mayor of Brooklyn, talking about mushrooms.
Well, I mean, we would just serve mushrooms there at the press conference, along with sliced red peppers and celery and whatever else. Just there's a bunch of mushrooms. It just answers. Yeah. It just
it's oysters. Oyster mushrooms have the highest concentrate of that chemical I'm talking about. So oyster mushrooms are doing that. They protect your DNA.
Yeah.
Oyster mushrooms have this other element of creating a chemical that can be used in antivirals. Wow. Oyster mushrooms also go back to the famous experiment that Paul Stamets did like 20 years ago, where he poured oil onto these 3 mounds of dirt, and he did this experiment where he left one pile alone, just let it go. He poured some standard chemical cleanup compound provided by Exxon or BP onto the second one to clean up the oil. And the third one, he planted oyster mushrooms. And of course, the most successful pile of dirt was the oyster mushroom one. Not only had the oyster mushrooms completely cleaned up the oil, the whole mound of dirt was thriving with plant life, and birds are coming and dropping seeds. And apparently you could even take those oyster mushrooms and still eat them after they clean the oil. That's called microremediation. So another benefit of oyster mushrooms.
Incredible. I mean, they just sound like these amazing factories of chemicals and catalysts and and just whatever, just like really super cool stuff to do super amazing things.
And we keep discovering new things all the time.
Yeah, totally. So. Well, for starters, let's go with what we know, and put it to full use. But I'm really digging the idea of Brooklyn because, oh man, digging it. Anyway, super cool. Awesome. Well, anyway, I know you're famished, Michael, so don't let it
go soon. I'll see what the next person has to say, but I want to go.
Yeah. So go ahead. So from London, go for it. And so you're on mute. Your microphone is muted.
The thing about Brooklyn is, that during Hurricane Sandy, they were very well organized. The people who'd formerly been part of the Occupy had, were there at the rescue with mutual aid. So they're kind of an army of volunteers, if you like, that are already there in a densely populated area. In terms of distributing the food.
Yeah, no, I love it. They're prepped. They're prepped for this. They're good to go. I love it. No, the Brooklyn has so much going for it. And it's I remember back in the early 80s, actually reading a National Geographic article about Brooklyn that just came out. One of the things they said that was kind of amazing was something like a quarter of Americans are either from, lived in, or, their parents or grandparents or great-grandparents, passed through Brooklyn. It's just like this common ground for like a huge chunk of Americans, like a quarter of Americans or something like that.
Is that because the immigrant ships landed there?
Well, the ships landed at Ellis Island, went through, processed everybody, and then I don't know. It could well be that Brooklyn was just the place, but it's also like the biggest borough, the most land, the most area. So it could absorb people like the other, better than the other boroughs. I think is the easiest way to say it. Manhattan is kind of super wealthy, and Brooklyn, it feels like the kind of place that is just like it's everybody's, neighborhood. Right. I mean, there's different neighborhoods. Again, Irish neighborhoods, Polish neighborhoods, Jewish neighborhoods. Brooklyn's got it all. Go ahead, Jackie. Yes.
And also has affluent neighborhoods and has the projects. So it's very, very diverse. And that's where my focus is to go to those the projects areas, to go to those underserved schools. That's where I want to go, and I want to work, and I want to bring the food there.
Well, let's start there, and that's where we'll start Operation Stone Soup, because the projects also have the greatest density of people, right? And therefore, among the highest risk for social spreading. But then combine that with poor immunology due to malnutrition, and you got a powder keg and a human rights disaster, right? And so, I am so game, Jackie. You know what? I want to go tonight. I'll pick you up. Let's drive out to Brooklyn. Let's get a big old stone soup thing, and let's just start. Michael, yes, you got your hand up. Go for it.
Wait, where are you at, Jamen? You're in the East Coast?
I'm in Brooklyn. What do you think? No, I'm here. I'm on Whidbey Island, but
that's what I thought.
And Jackie's Jackie's in Arizona.
Okay.
We've got a bit of an Irish invasion going on. We're outnumbered by the Irish, and then we've got Canadian. We've got a bit of a Canadian infestation as well. So, anyway,
I was just browsing here while I was listening to you guys talk, and I just happened to come across an article posted 4 days ago. This says New York lawmaker files bill to decriminalize what? Psychedelic mushrooms in New York. So it's moving there. Just be aware that wave might be coming soon.
All right. Excellent. Beautiful.
All right, guys. Enjoy. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
I'll have a hot topic next week.
Wonderful. Can't wait.
And,
Mike, for those who don't know, Michael is a frequent presenter here, and hopefully one day regular, like every week. But he was every week.
Yeah.
First, he's gotten a bit.
Well, I'm in a hump right now. I'm rolling out some really big projects I've been kind of engendering for a long time, and so I'm just really concentrating on that right now. So it's been taking a lot of my attention, but.
Totally understand that. Yeah.
But I've got some good ideas for some good talks here soon. So
awesome.
We'll bring those together. All right. Have a great day, guys.
Awesome.
Talk
Thanks so much, Michael. All right. See you soon. Yeah. So, I'm dead serious. I'm life serious. Let me put it that way. I am life serious about putting together a video for the borough president of Brooklyn. And let's just lay it out. Let's just say, look, this is our big idea, right? Jackie, you can say I'm from, where you're from in New York. And, this is our vision. We can screen share, and I can share both about the community cafe and the Hungerless Games and all that, right? Share about Sato Hemp. I think you'll get a big kick out of that, about the Emperor of Japan. And that's going to be a hit. Anyway, yes, so you got your hand up. Go. And you're muted again. I'm going to unmute you. Oops, looks like we're having a whack-a-mole contest. I'll leave it up to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Is it true that in the Brooklyn area there are quite a lot of community garden projects?
I can't imagine there wouldn't be, and I'll tell you why. I don't know specifically, but I'll tell you why. In Shanghai, China, which is just super densely populated with buildings everywhere, they grow, when I visited there, it was 2006. At that time, they were growing 40% of the produce consumed by the city was grown inside the city. So that's how much, that's just an indication of how, that's just blows my mind. But when I'd be, going around on the train or driving around or whatever in Shanghai, because I spent like a month there when I was working for Microsoft. I was a month in Shanghai. It was incredible. But you look around on every little patch of soil that's not covered by a skyscraper or a parking lot or a subway station, they've got not just produce growing, but like little greenhouses, crawl space greenhouses where they're going in. It's just like, you've
also got the green wall movement, growing vertically all over the walls.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Which has a big effect on cooling the city, you know, with wet bulb temperatures on the horizon. That is you know, and roof gardens and things. But there's quite a lot of, I don't know whether you've come across it, the hot future that we're going to get. There's a lot of talk about city buildings are too dark and they're absorbing the light, they're absorbing the heat. So there's talk about, you know, reflective paint to stop the heating of the buildings and to stop the heating of the cities. Whereas with green vertical gardening, you solve all that.
Yeah, totally. Hey, I just realized that I didn't answer Jackie's earlier question about, hey, what about what Silas said about, hey, we first want to get the app rolling in a number of cities and make sure that, you know, that's all working and all that. So I'm going to say exactly what I think about that. And I'll say this right to Silas when I talk with him. But I think that Silas doesn't have the experience with press conferences and with the power of that medium, and with the power of just getting out there and doing it stone soup style. He comes from Intel. He comes from the world of microprocessors, where if there's not a microprocessor working and computing something, you ain't got nothing to show, right? And if you ain't got nothing to show, why, you know, so in his mind, he wants to launch, it's got his granddaughter's name. So I think there's a degree of attachment there. And I love Silas to the ends of the earth. Oh my goodness, he's taught me more than anyone else probably and changed my life. So I am as pro Silas as you can get. And in that spirit, you know, I'm going to gently call him out when I think that, you know, because the big opportunity here, quite frankly, when we do this press conference in Brooklyn, it doesn't matter whether we have an app or not. What matters is that we have the borough president there and that we're committing to feeding everyone. And come with us now, we're headed straight to the projects where Sister Jackie is stirring a giant pot, right, of stone soup, right? And, you know, that's the news. And then here's the thing, look, everyone all around there is going to start contributing, right? Remember how, like, after 9/11, everyone wanted to just support New York and everyone's crying and everyone's, what do I need to do? Take a trip to New York? People are taking trips to New York to help the New York economy and all this stuff, taking vacations to New York. And so when people hear that Brooklyn is taking on feeding everyone, and also salvaging food that would other guys go wasted in the surrounding countryside, and people are organizing, right? You can just see the television images, right, of New Yorkers, you know, with the New York accent and all that stuff, you know, just, hey, get that truck over here, we're gonna do, and we need to get deliveries out to the east side over there, you know, and people just crying when the food shows up. Right? This is New York being New York, right? New York, they've lost their magic in the last few decades. This is New York taking it back. Boom, psh, boom, boom, psh, boom, boom, psh. And where are we talking about all this? At the block party. Come to the block. Brooklyn's, freaking the block parties were invented in Brooklyn, right? So come to the block party. Next thing you know, the president of Brooklyn's going to be here in the block party hanging with us. Saying, hey, I watched your video. I'm here. All right? I'm in. Right? Heck yes. Heck yes. Oh my goodness. Borough president, because you know what's going to happen when we do the press conference? The presidents of the other boroughs are going to show up too. Oh yeah, and the governor of New Jersey. Oh yeah, and boom, 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 boom. And the block party is going to begin, and New York will never be the same again. New Yorkers, fasten your seatbelts. We're going for a little ride. And you know what? If you can make it there, you'll make it anywhere. It's up to you. New York, New York. New York's the perfect place for this. Brooklyn is the perfect place. Go, Jackie.
You know, it's reminding me, you bring up 9/11, and we did have, my twins were born 3 days after 9/11. Like, yeah, it was, that was the week from, it was, yeah. And I was there, I was on the East Coast. So it was, so it reminds me of that, I don't want to say despair, but that feeling of loss and trauma. And then, you know, Mayor Giuliani, who was supposed to be the mayor, that stood up, and he just corrupted his whole legacy of 9/11. So it gives us an opportunity as New Yorkers again to really go back and get away from the stigma of what Giuliani did and how he's attached to 9/11, and really go back to the core of how we as community members responded. Not about the politicians that are on top that took all the credit, but as community members that came together side to side and helped one another through a crisis. And now that New York is the epicenter of another crisis, again, it's an opportunity for us to reactivate our hearts and come together as community, and just, again, let's not stop looking up. This is what we did before. We let them take credit, but it was us, and we're doing it again. This is what we do as New Yorkers.
That's it, Jackie. That's it, Jackie. Listen, Jackie, you're going to become such an important voice for the world. You're going to represent New York. You just represented New York right now. I wish we could have recorded that. Oh, we are recording.
And I think also the beauty of him, when he sees our vision and he chooses to come in and be part of it, is that he himself, as an African-American man that has been a police officer, that has reversed his own diabetes, he can understand. He wrote a book about it. He can understand the comorbidity in our communities, our Black and Brown communities, that make us so much more vulnerable to the COVID. So it's just, he speaks to the whole spectrum of our purpose for doing this. It's beautiful. It's synchronicity. It's beautiful.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Oh my goodness. James has his hand up. Go for it, James.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you have your hand up before, So? I'm sorry. Sorry about that, James. Go ahead, So.
What was I going to say? I saw a video on YouTube the other day, and it was Bill Maher, and he was, you know, he's quite big on the nutrition thing, and he had a bit of a rant. It was a lovely little rant, actually, and it was a rant about the virus and the link with the food and the immunity. Did you see it, Jackie?
Yeah, we actually played it here on the.
I thought it was really good. I played it to my son. He didn't know Bill Maher, so he was laughing in all the right places. I mean, it was a very, very cool vid, I thought. Yeah.
No, it was awesome. Yeah. I've actually met Bill Maher. It was at a party at his house back in the ganja days. But anyway, but yeah, no, we played that video here. What a great video. Love that video. And, you know, look, between that video, the Brooklyn borough president piling on, right? This is like the Berlin Wall coming down, right? One day it's standing strong and there's, you know, Soviet-made rifles trained on the spot. Okay, the wall. The next day it's freaking coming down in sections.
How do you make the links with, you know, a lot of the farmers are in crisis, you know, economically in crisis?
Yeah.
Because they can't get the pickers because of the COVID-19, and you know, so they've got their, and in UK, and I guess it's the same over there, the milk's all being thrown away. So you've got a kind of perfect moment to get the farmers into transition. Well, they're already in transition mode, presumably, because of the crisis. So it's just to direct them into that. into that thing about the waste food and feeding the population, the needy, and anybody who needs a good meal.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So cool. So cool. And James, sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I gotten my wires crossed. Okay, go for it, James, if this is still a good time.
Yeah, no problem. No, I'm just assuming like that. This at the press conference, the announcement to all this, like that, the infrastructure behind it, at least some of the infrastructure for this, will be set. I'm assuming that will be set up anyway. At least contact with farmers for supply and delivery servicemen and volunteers. Even if, as you said, like start with the stone soup idea, get a small group of them, at least to show that a chain of supply can be set up, and then of course lead by example as well, like not just turn around and say, here's a great idea, we know how to fix it all for you, here's the idea, go sort it out yourselves. Show them that, like, we have at least this is how you do it, this is just a small scale alone, and lead by example as well, like showing them like that. New York has been exemplary, an exemplary example to the other states of America, as far as I'm concerned. They've taken all the right approaches under their mayors, both New York State and New York City, under the Cuomo brothers, and I think that they've shown an exemplary example to the other states of America, and they should be listened to, adhered to, and followed, because they're the only seems to be anyway, the only state, as far as I'm concerned, who's acting out of common sense right from the beginning. And no doubt about it, I'd imagine that not just the Irish community in America, but everyone, because they're all leading by example, because everyone's stepping to the fore. Those who can volunteer in whatever capacity that they can volunteer in New York are doing so already. And that is exactly as what I'm saying, an exemplary example. And if we could show that there's another situation, another way that we can help, another way that we could supply the food to those that need it, and show by example, like perhaps like show like the example of what the Irish are doing with the Choctaw delivering the food and donations to those nations, because it's in return for the exemplary example of what it's like to be a human being that the Choctaw nations showed to the Irish during the time of the famine, and show examples like that we were always once like that, and that we were now, and we have been now, conditioned to think differently and to think for ourselves. It's now time to change that. It's time now to think for those who are around you, for your neighbors, and for the vulnerable in our societies, like New York has been showing. And I think that there's no better place than New York to launch an idea like this. But it's important we have not just the ideas, but some of the infrastructure set up as well for us to show that there is an example of how it can be done. Thanks.
Oh, love it, James. Thank you. So go for it. And you're muted. So.
Yeah, I know. I heard you talk about the delivering the food to the houses and to the flats and to the projects, but were you also thinking in terms of community kitchens?
Yeah. So in terms of where the food is prepared, right? So the food will come from trucks from the countryside, whole truckloads of like broccoli or whatever, and that broccoli truck may make 3 or 4 stops and drop off, a quarter of the truck here, a quarter of the truck there, a quarter of the truck there. And then those will be, basically like community kitchens, or they can be restaurants, right? They can be church kitchens. They can be YMCA kitchens. They can be school kitchens. Schools have huge.
Amish made masks. The Amish are.
Oh wow.
We just got
Made in Ohio.
Made in Ohio.
Made in Amish country in Ohio.
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah, I was thinking about the when I was talking about community kitchens, I meant places where not only does the cooking go on, for the foods to be delivered, but also where people can just pop in and gather and just eat all day, you know, or pop in all day and eat, you know, on the way back from school, pop in with the kids, you know, and then you've got the building up of the social capital because people are eating opposite each other.
Irish made mask.
Check that out. Show us the other side.
That's awesome.
Right.
With nose pincher inside it as well, so it closes in on the nose.
Nose
And totally. And the beauty of I will suggest that since we have shown some of these, the beauty of making your own homemade mask is, and I would say this to anyone, because the supply of medical masks that are out there are on short supply as it is, and they're on the black market, are being sold for very expensive prices. And to support that kind of thing anyway is the wrong way to do anything. But if you make your own masks, or if you're have a capacity of making these masks out of cloth, these are double lined.
Yeah.
It's double lined with the little nose pinch, which is basically a plastic plant tie inside the hem of the stitching. It stretches out because it's pleated, and it just has a little elastic on both ends. And you can have it in any color material on that you want on the front, as long as you have clean cotton on the back.
Nice.
And the point is that most people think with the medical masks, they only last for 12 hours and they will have to be disposed of. And a lot of people throw them on the ground and children pick them up and they think it's okay to use, they put it on them, and that can be spread that way as well. So people are very careless in the way they dispose of them, for one anyway. But for two, you can bring this home after you've been out. And if you have isopropyl alcohol, which is 99% isopropyl alcohol, which raw will evaporate itself. So if you put it in a fine mist spray bottle and you place your mask with where you were breathing into it yourself, face it up and spray it with the isopropyl alcohol, then flip it over and spray it with the alcohol again. And if you leave that, it'll evaporate after a few hours and it's safe again to use.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that tip. And I also have, which maybe we can do next week on the Divine Feminine, a friend of mine sent me a link for how to make them out of t-shirts for people who don't know how to sew. So maybe we could have a mask making workshop on the Divine Feminine principle. I think that could be kind of helpful and amusing.
Yeah, well, these were made by my sister, so I'll ask her.
Very nice.
Awesome. Thank you,
Yeah,
sweetheart.
you have your hand. I don't know your name.
That's So.
So, hi, So.
Hi, there's somebody in the UK, it's probably happening over there as well. She's making masks with a see-through slot so that you can see the mouth for lip readers, so that they can read the lips. So they have a little window. And also people who are scared of people if they can't see them smiling. So it's useful for that as well. So she just sews in this transparent piece. Have you got them over there?
Sorry.
I haven't personally seen those. Yeah. So my mother needed to go to the hospital today, and we called 911. And when they turned up, they said they weren't going to take her because it's too dangerous in the hospitals right now. I thought that was quite interesting.
So what happened then with the emergency that you had?
Well, she's not, she's 90, and she fell a couple weeks ago out of her wheelchair and hurt her back. And she's got some problems with her digestive system and is just feeling really bad. So we thought we needed to get her checked. And they refused to take her. They said that it's more dangerous for her to go than to stay where she is in the condition she is.
Can you not get a general practitioner to call to her or something?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. It's just the whole medical system in the world, especially in America, is very upside down right now. You know, we
Yeah,
need old country doctors who used to make home visits. You guys remember? Well, some of you remember those. Jackie won't necessarily. You're way too young. But yeah, time to revamp the whole system, right?
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people who are in need of vital care now, cancer treatments and heart treatments and everything else, and they can't get at the hospitals either. My thoughts and prayers with you and with your mother.
Thank you very much, James. That's so sweet of you. Love you guys. See you later.
See you, sweetheart.
Thank you, James.
Mm.
Somebody asked me if I knew where to get that.
Well, can we discuss that later? Okay. I'm ready.
Good appetite. I had to step away for a bit there. I had a comment before, losing a little bit of context now, but it was concerning the subject of mayors of the cities. You know, they're trying to get the mayors on board with the idea, and I wanted to suggest that you know, there must be, like, I don't know how many mayors in America, right? I don't know the exact number, but I'm sure a big majority of them are on Facebook, right? And you know, you put out the call that you're making a Zoom meeting about, you know, the subject matter at hand, and see who shows up. Okay, out of the whole gang of them, and see who cares enough to show up to a meeting on Zoom. And that'll be a step in the right direction.
I think the idea of approaching the one mayor at a time at the start anyway is the way to go, as Jamen was saying, Emery. And you know, it looks like New York is a place to hit, all right. Like, and given it, as I said, it is an exemplary example anyway to the rest of New York or the rest of the states. But yeah, as I said, we still need to, before we stop putting out calls to anyone or getting in contact with anyone, we still have to work out the fine details and start making contacts with at least some of these volunteers, a small group of them anyway, to get some form of infrastructure in place first before we contact anyone. At least get in touch with them and ask them if they would be willing to do that. Should it be an idea that came to fruition? You know what I mean? Make that initial contact with a few of them. Ask them, would they be willing to participate should it come to fruition? And if they're willing to participate, that we were going to make the contact with the mayors then. You know what I mean? That's the way to go, like, because we can't just go to the mayors and say, well, we got great ideas, now go sort it out yourselves. Like, that's just not going to work. Like, they're just going to come off the fucking stage. You know what I mean?
All I'm saying is, down the line somewhere, okay, it's not a hard thing to do, to set up a Zoom meeting and invite all these mayors and see who shows up.
That would be the press conference.
Not going to twist anybody's arm, right? But I mean, they're smart people. They're smart, right? They could come to a Zoom meeting. It's not going to kill them, right? That's the way I see it.
Yeah, but that would be the idea of the press conference. Then once everything's put in place, and having those mayors, the initial mayors, at the press conference as well, because that's the call out to the rest of the mayors then to take notice. Starting with one, like.
So I've got an idea that's a secret love child between what Emery was saying and what James was saying, and here it is. What if we schedule a series of meetings on Zoom? Thank you, Emery. Inviting all the people of Brooklyn to join us for a conversation about feeding Brooklyn, right?
Good enough.
And we invite people from city government. We invite people from, you know, all these different nonprofits and community organizations and neighborhood, all these awesome organizations that were just mentioned around 9/11. Invite them all. Hey, right? We've got a big mission. It's Feed Brooklyn, ongoingly, home delivered, right? You know, Brooklyn, you know, and it's something that, you know, we're just kicking off, right? Jackie, I think you're the natural, you know, spokesperson, leader of this because you're from New York, right? And you can just boom, boom, boom. They'll listen to you, and they'll listen to us. But particularly if you're the first voice that says hello, you know, welcome to Project, you know, welcome to Feed Brooklyn, or, you know, whatever. Feed Brooklyn. Why not? That's kind of the point, right? Feed Brooklyn. What's the project? Feed Brooklyn. Have you heard of Feed Brooklyn? Feed Brooklyn. Feed Brooklyn. Feed Brooklyn.
Why not just for a moment, oh, bear with me, like, but not, why not focus on the name, like, at the moment, no, like, Feed Brooklyn or anything like that. Some people would take reservations to the idea of someone coming along from outside saying, we're here to feed Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, bear with me a second, you know where I'm coming from.
Sure.
And my point is, I get where you're coming from. We launch it in the sense that we're here to, with an idea that we, you know, with the idea that we have it to feed those in society that are vulnerable given the situations that we're in. And with the idea of what we want to do is to try and do this nationwide, if not global, as it spreads out. But we want to start here. We want Brooklyn to be the example. That's the way to draw them in. You can't catch fish without a worm.
I like the idea of universal basic nutrition. Then so it's free to everybody, and presumably the rich wouldn't want it anyway. You know, like but so that it's absolutely universal. So it becomes a real game changer, modeled in the way of universal basic income.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Universal basic nutrition. And here's the thing. It's like, because this is something where, look, the objectives are twofold. One, feed everyone, and two, stop pandemics, right? We kind of focus on the stop pandemics thing so that we don't rub it in people's faces. Hey, we're here to feed you because you're poor. Hey, we're here to feed you because you can't feed yourself. Hey, we're here to feed, you know, no. Everybody, for your own safety, stay in your home. I know you'd like to be out shopping, but you can't right now because it's too dangerous. We're bringing the food to you. And it's food that'll boost your immune system. All right? Well, heck yeah, feed Brooklyn. Emery, you got your hand up.
Yeah, you can introduce tax credits for eating our food. For eating the food, you get a tax credit. Okay, you get the points. You get extra points
Make money while you eat.
You get air miles or whatever. You just eat the food and get healthy. You know? Got to give them some incentive.
I think the best incentive would be you on television saying, listen, New York, eat the food and get healthy. Goodbye.
Pay less tax.
Hey, New York, eat the food, get healthy, and pay less tax.
Paying less taxes is only something that will appeal to the rich. We're trying to feed the poor, so they're not worried about the taxes anyway, I don't think. So
you got plenty of penny. You got plenty of penny pinchers. They're gonna want to save on tax.
You know,
Yeah,
you will save. You will
Understand tax.
we're here to put the food on the plates of children and vulnerable people. So that's what should be, put over and put across.
That too.
All right, Jackie's got an idea here. Go ahead, Jackie.
I like that idea of the incentive, but I guess where I can speak of my personal story is where I saved on my medical costs, on my co-pays, on my office visits. I'm at more liberty to do more. I save more on clothes because I've lost weight. I don't have any medications. I've reversed my diseases. I've lost 148 pounds. My life has been transformed, and ultimately there's more money in my pocket because I'm not wasting it on trying to create health enough to have a life. Like, my focus isn't on trying to be healthy enough just so that I can be a productive person. Now my productivity is natural and it's an overflow because of my health. And I have now discretionary income where I never had before because I've spent so much money. And my children, all of us spend so much money on visits to the doctor. So that's co-pays. Then you have your deductible. Then you have your co-pays for your prescriptions. All of that is gone. That's more money in my pocket. So if anything, that helps us as community members that are just kind of steeped in medical bills to say, again, this is to help you. This is to support you so you could be your healthiest, most vibrant person. So we're going to help you also save money to eliminate that stress, not only of stress of being vulnerable to disease, but that stress of that medical cost constantly over your head.
Are you coming from the plant-based? Did your life change because you went plant-based? Is that what you're saying?
One of the major things, my health completely transformed because I went plant-based. Yes, my entire family, we lost 300 pounds. We reversed MS, diabetes, hypertension, anxiety disorders. My children are no longer on any kind of ADHD medication or anxiety medication. None of us are on any kind of medication. And when we would go on vacation, we would have to take 2 Ziploc bags full of medication just for us to travel. And we literally, B12, that's what we carry with us now. And that's it. It's a whole different life. It's a whole different way of feeling about yourself. You feel vibrant, you feel healthy, you want to support, you want to help. And it's contagious. When you feel this good, you look at your neighbors and you want to help. You want to say, you can feel this way. You can love life again. And whatever happens around you in life, but when you're feeling healthy and you're feeling grounded and secure, you're able to interact with life much more easily because you have that energy and you have that vibrance and your mind is clear with less stress. So we're able to interact with life in a much more cohesive, holistic, peaceful way.
Yeah, between that testimony of yours, the testimony of the borough president who wrote a book on the subject, oh my goodness. The two of you are the first 2 people to talk at the press conference, right? He'll kick it off and he'll say, I can't believe how quickly this is coming together. I'm so grateful to the whole community coming together. I want to thank the chief of fire. I want to thank the chief of police. I want to thank YMCA. I want to thank United Way. And last but not least, I want to introduce the woman who brought this to me and said, hey, right? She's from New York, da-da-da-da. She's got her own story. Listen to her story, right? And, you know, here's what it is. And welcome to Feed Brooklyn. Never again will another Brooklynite go hungry, ever. Boom, that's our promise. Never again will another Brooklynite go malnourished, ever. That's our promise. Never again will people have to go out in search of food in the middle of a pandemic. In fact, this is how we're going to stop pandemics. Boom, 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 boom. That's what we're talking about. So I say we give this thing a name. I say we birth this baby right here, slap it in the butt, and send it on its way all the way back to Brooklyn. Pardon my Brooklynese. We kind of get right to the point, you know. And and so you know, I say we do a video. We call it "Welcome to Feed Brooklyn," right? Feed Brooklyn. I mean, how are people feeling about the name of Feed Brooklyn? Feed Brooklyn.
I heard that a catchy name has 3 words in it. A catchy name, a name that catches on, has 3 words in it. That's just something I heard somewhere. It's a marketing thing. 3 words. So we are feeding we feed Brooklyn, what, you know, or whatever.
I think, look, I mean, like, take Facebook. Facebook didn't have a 3rd word, and it hasn't hurt them too bad.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Microsoft, which is a mashup between micro and soft. Google, which is 1 word. Twitter, which is 1 word.
True. Okay.
Let's,
you win. You win.
Okay. Emery's got his hand up. Go for it, Emery.
Yeah, I could say the Brooklyn diet, but you know, Brooklyn won't die yet because of the food that's coming in, right?
We'll call it Brooklyn. Don't die yet. It reminds me of the movie The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where Tuco is telling Clint Eastwood, "Don't die, Blondie. Don't die. Come on, don't die, Blondie," because Clint Eastwood knew where the gold was. And so Tuco, who wants nothing more than to kill Clint Eastwood, in this case wants him to stay alive so he can get the gold and then kill Clint Eastwood. But anyway.
Well, you could call it the Brooklyn diet, but what do you think? I mean, people, I think health is going to resonate big time with people. Now, you know, that's one great aspect of it, the health part. And, you know, people get healthy. When they think of getting healthy, they think of, well, I got to change my diet, got to lose a few pounds, you know, we got to work out, or Brooklyn's working out on a new diet. It's, you know, and then, you know, you're going to save a few bucks too in the end. But diet, it's a Brooklyn diet.
No, but I mean, that the Brooklyn diet sounds like a book that you buy, you know, if you're an overweight Brooklyn housewife or something.
A diet for me?
Would I buy it for you? No, I wouldn't.
A diet for me?
Anyway, James. Huh?
Yeah, they're just rambling.
All right.
Just rambling.
All right. Well, we got real work to do here, so let's get on it. I mean, in terms of, it's, you know, let's throw whatever we need to throw against the wall and see what sticks. As far as I'm concerned, Feed Brooklyn is like the most logical, right? It's just right to the point. It's got to have the name Brooklyn in it, and feed is just 1 simple syllable.
Those Brooklynites are very proud, you know.
But you see, here's the thing. Part of it is the controversy. What the hell are you doing feeding Brooklyn, right? We don't need you. Well, look, you know, you may not need me, sir, but there are a bunch of people who do. And whether you need us or not, you need us now so that you can stay home and be healthy and not go out mixing it up in public, being, you know, victim number 57,221 of Brooklyn, right? Let's, you know, so it's controversial because at first it's like, what is there, like, you know, is Brooklyn starving or something? And then you dig more into it. It's like, oh, got it. You want to stop pandemics, so you're bringing food to everyone just like they did in China. Well, it seemed to work pretty well for China. Why wouldn't it work in Brooklyn, right? And the thing is, and then when you add that to the fact that food is going to waste in the countryside, and people actually are going hungry because now they can't get the food, right? So it's not so much an economics thing as a logistics thing. It's the food networks are broken. We've got to rebuild them, right? This is the $6 million man applied to the food networks feeding Brooklyn. Ladies and gentlemen, we can rebuild it. We can build the world's first collectively super intelligent, compassionate, whole foods, plant-based city. Bow, 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 bow. James has had his hand up. Go for it, James.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Yeah, like that would be. I think that would be a bad choice of words anyway, given the circumstances. Don't diet Brooklyn or something like that. Keeping the diet out of it, anyway. Not the best choice of words at the moment, given the circumstances, to be honest. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. My point is that, yeah, it has to have the name Brooklyn in it, and why draw negativity on us in the first place? Because yes, if there will, as I said already, there would be some people get their backs up with somebody coming from the outside saying, we got a plan to feed Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Who the hell do you think you are? You're going to get that. Why bother even drawing that on us? Why draw any negativity on us? Let's get the right name. Simple as that. Don't focus on any one. Don't, as we learned from today from Siegfried, let's not become attached to any outcomes yet. The point is, you're right. Brooklyn needs to has to have its name in it because they are a proud place, and that's important. But it doesn't have to be something like feed Brooklyn, catch that kind of a catch. How about the Brooklyn solution?
I've got another. I've got another one. How about this, James? Brooklyn Food Network. Brooklyn Food Network.
Whichever. I'm just saying what we need to do is do this. Like, we need to brainstorm here. We need to come up with the right idea, but not get fixated on any one for the moment. That's all I'm saying. But my main point is that if we are going to do this, we can't just present ideas to people at a press conference. Not in this situation anyway. I know it was a different situation on the example you used, but that was a different situation. There was infrastructure already there that could be just thrown into place, really. This is a situation where a whole new way of thinking around the infrastructure is just that's the idea we have, but we still need a voluntary amount of different aspects of that infrastructure to be ready on the go, so that we can, when we unveil it at the press conference, that we show them then by example, like, this is how it can work. This is just a small example using this stone soup method or principle, but we know that you're an independent state, town, part of the state, and you know what I'm saying, that you know how to get on board, and we want you to lead by example and let Brooklyn be the solution to the problem of the following, these situations that we're facing, and so on and so forth, with the warming and everything else. But feeding people is the most important, to keep people indoors. And given that New York has been exemplary in showing an example by staying indoors, then the best thing to do is they're just as open to show an example that there's ways to do it for the other states. You know what I mean? Cheers.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jackie.
I haven't fully thought this out, so I'm just going to throw it out there because you said just throw it, see what sticks. I keep envisioning and I put in the link about the community gardens that are available because So asked. So I looked it up, and there's numerous community gardens in Brooklyn. So all I keep thinking is, and I'm making the connection that we'll be feeding the community, especially the children, from those community gardens, from right, the soil itself, from the life, the seeds that are planted themselves. All I keep thinking is that we're highlighting that Brooklyn has its own apothecary. It has its own solutions. It has its own medicine. It has its own vitality. And what we're doing is we're coming with the knowledge and the awareness to just help those in the community to access the resources that they already have, the medicine that is already present, to get in touch with the soil, with nature that's already there, and gently invite the apothecary cures that are really available inside of our bodies. So I think we're there, not like, I understand what James is saying, and coming from the projects in New York, I know exactly what he's saying, where it's like, first of all, who are you to come in and tell me? But it's an invitation to bring awareness to the resources that are already here. And we're here to support you access those resources. And there's resources in all communities. So we're just gonna go from community to community to awaken and bring the vitality of the apothecary that's available to each community within themselves. I think that's coming to me.
Jackie, I'm very inspired by the special period in Cuba. You know, when they had to grow everything, suddenly nothing came in. Have you seen the films about it? You can get them on YouTube.
Which one?
The films about the special period in Cuba. They're on YouTube. And you see how overnight, simply because it was out of pure necessity, they had to use every tiny little bit of patch of land in the city to grow something, because they were going to starve otherwise. Suddenly they brought loads of bikes in. Everything was transformed. So it's the perfect kind of lesson in how it can be. And they used, you know, they got the Cuban doctor thing. They used a lot of, they couldn't afford, they didn't have a medical infrastructure. So they had to use the herbs that they were growing for the medicines. And if you look at, there were quite a number of films on YouTube, but there are a couple of really, really good ones with interviews from the people, and you will find that so inspiring.
Thank you so much. So thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. I love that you brought up the special period in Cuba. Jackie, I love the focus on the community gardens. You know, I think we're going to, I think what makes sense to me, I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on this, but what makes sense to me is that we go, you know, full court press, where we say, look, this is a combination of leveraging the community gardens to their maximum. Let's grow as much as we can right here within the city, be as self-sufficient as we can, including, you know, and then combine that with at-home permaculture, from windowsill, you know, produce, vegetable, you know, little gardens, to rooftop gardens, to those lettuce grow things that you can have inside your home, wherever light hits, right? A lot of light landing. And then supported as well by agriculture, right? Community supported agriculture, CSA. This will be just like, you know, CSA done really, really big, and including restaurants and all that. So it's a combination. It's not just one single silver bullet. It's a combination of resources brought to bear. And as such, it'll be an evolving thing, right? If you imagine a time-lapse photography on Brooklyn, you'll see the walls of buildings going green over time, right? As more and more permaculture is planted and grows. But it takes time to grow. It takes time to get all this figured out and done, right? But I think Brooklyn's totally got the volunteer spirit and the community spirit. And I think it'll just be it'll be a citywide stay-home block party, right? Where everyone, you know, everything's delivered. Hey, just stay home, get on Zoom, and let's party. And then Brooklyn can also become the engine of collective intelligence, because first and foremost, they'll get on to, you know, feed everyone. By the way, I like the idea of the Brooklyn Food Network, just as a name. And I totally agree with what James says. Let's not get attached to any one given name. Let's see. Okay, Melvin asked a good question. Welcome back, Stephanie. Melvin asked, are we presenting a top-down solution to stop hunger or a grounds-up solution? Can we invite those involved in community grass organizations, including churches, to help launch what we vision? Absolutely. And I'd say, you know, I'd say it's much more bottoms up than it is top down, because our approach is to get all of Brooklyn. Look, imagine we start doing a whole network of Zoom video conferences on the Brooklyn Food Network. It almost sounds like a television network. BFN, the Brooklyn Food Network. And we have conversations on permaculture. We have conversations on community gardens. We have conversations on local agriculture that we might bring in, right, to buttress the first two, right? We'll have conversations with religious groups. We'll have conversations with food banks and community kitchens and all of the community organizations. Let's see. Stephanie mentioned a couple things. So let me get back to those. You know, just have a whole bunch of these different meetings, and we just put them up there, right? And we, you know, tweet it out, we Facebook it out, we send it to the people in Brooklyn and say, please post this on your site, and please come to our meeting. We're creating the Brooklyn Food Network, right? Which could sound like a top-down thing, but it's really a bottom-up. But we are seeking to create a network, which is something big, right? And a hyper-connected, interconnected network, right? Where it's kind of like that, you know, mushroom ribosomal network on underneath the forest floor that connects all the trees together and all the plants together, right? And it's sort of like this nervous system of the entire forest, right? So but at the same time, it's distributed. It's not like a centralized top-down thing. It's definitely way more grassroots, bottoms up, but at the same time, it is networked, right? So it may look big, but it's really flat and totally, you know, democratic, community driven. That's how I would frame it, right? And we start off by organizing a bunch of meetings and then just advertise it like crazy. You know, I say advertise it, but what I really mean is just get the word out however we can, right? Especially to Brooklynites, but really to everyone, right? And, you know, and say, look, we're building the Brooklyn Food Network to feed, what's the objectives? Feed everyone in Brooklyn and end pandemics in Brooklyn, and create a model, not just for the rest of New York City, not just for the rest of New York State, but not just for the rest of the United States, but for the whole world. If we can do it in Brooklyn, where we've got high population density and not a lot of bare soil, let's call a spade a spade. We got a high population density and not a lot of bare soil, right? So, you know, if we can do it here, we can do it anywhere. And it's a challenge, right? The challenge is, how do we do this the best way possible? That's the most people-friendly, the most planet-friendly, and the most virus-unfriendly, the most pandemic-unfriendly, right? All right. Stephanie typed in a couple things, then and then Emery's got his hand up. Stephanie typed in the Brooklyn Guide, or Sustainable Brooklyn, maybe. was listening on Twitch. Okay, the Brooklyn Guide or well, see, Sustainable Brooklyn would be way more far-reaching. That to me screams of like green buildings and everyone riding bicycles and all that, and that's all super cool, right? But it's I think Brooklyn and food. It has to have Brooklyn and food or Brooklyn and feed. That's why Brooklyn Food Network or Feed Brooklyn Grassroots Network. Yeah, it's definitely a grassroots network. But I think like Brooklyn Food Network, right? That just sounds like a really community, you know, grassroots. It sounds grassroots. Like we don't have to say the word grassroots. If it sounds the grassroots, boom. And you can't get more grassroots than this, right? The mayor will bless it. The mayor will say, I'm here. You guys got the keys to the city, you know, you know, and we're all working. I'm part of the Brooklyn Food Network, right? Why not? Let the Brooklyn Borough President. I mean, we're doing this in Brooklyn largely because of him. So maybe we build out a website, we get the right name, we create the thing, right? Build out a website, get a Facebook page, and get a calendar and start blasting it out there. And we can have the meetings right here in the block party and on the Solution Club. That we don't need to create another big block of meetings somewhere else in the week. See, that's the cool thing about the block party and the Solution Club. Just set aside those two giant windows of time and get all your meetings done right there. I mean, I'm serious. It's like, this is it. Either we do, I mean, you know, look, I was about to say either we do this or no one else will. Maybe there's someone else doing something like this. If they are, let's find each other. And the best way for us to find each other is to put out our own beacon and say, hey, we're doing this right here in Brooklyn. All right, Emery's got his hand up. Go for it, Emery.
I just wanted to find out, do you envision having like some kind of a Brooklyn headquarters of like a headquarters of operations? Like, is there going to be something physical that's set up, like where somebody could walk in or
you know,
contact?
That's such a good question. And if this was pre-pandemic, I would have said, well, of course. But post-pandemic, I'm like, I mean, I know we need kitchens. I know we need trucks. I know we need a lot of physical stuff, right? We probably need like a central warehouse area to like park trucks and, you know, where trucks can arrive if they don't know where else to go. But I mean, the cool thing is the collective intelligence will also be churning away 24/7, figuring out where stuff needs to go, who can receive it, where can they park, you know, and we'll have, you know, Brooklyn Police, Brooklyn Fire Department, Brooklyn Medical, they'll all be on our side, right? And I mean, shoot, we'll be the best friend the police could possibly imagine. People can just freaking chill at home and eat. They don't have to go out and freaking, yeah, go ahead.
Brooklyn Eats.
Brooklyn Eats. Brooklyn Eats. Brooklyn Eats. Brooklyn Eats.
Short and sweet.
Brooklyn Eats. It is short and sweet. My big problem with it is that I didn't come up with it. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, we've been at it now for another 2 hours straight. It kind of feels like a good time to take a little break. How do people feel about taking a break? Jackie, how you feeling? All right. I'm just going to ask Jackie, what works for you? Because you're our racehorse. Whoops. I'm glad Sarah didn't hear that one. Anyway, but what works for you break-wise, Jackie?
I can't even believe we've been at it this long. Honestly, I didn't realize what time it was. So it's whatever's good for everyone is fine.
All right. I want people to get up and walk around, stretch a bit. You know, it can be a lot hanging in there hour after hour. We've just crossed the 10-hour mark here on the, Emery says 20 minutes. All right. Any other suggestions for how long we break?
Yeah, 20 is good.
Good, good. All right, let's take 20 minutes, and we'll see everybody at, it'll be 4:30 over here, Pacific time. So we'll see you all in 20 minutes. I'll go ahead and put a sign up there. I'll take out the waiting room, etc. So everything will be cool. See you all in 20. Everyone have a good break.
Making Java.
All right, enjoy.